Hi, I'm Michael Winterburn. I have a bipolar disorder type 1 and am the host of this channel, Living with Bipolar. I'm starting this channel in order to raise awareness to the number of people that are affected by bipolar disorder in this country and offer tools and thoughts to help. I've seen numbers as high as 3% of the US population suffer with bipolar disorder, and that number is exponentially higher when you add in all the people that are touched, such as loved ones and social and medical professionals. I'm not a doctor, so neither my or my guest's advice should be a replacement for sound medical help. We are strong proponents of medical help and encourage all who listen to work with your doctors and therapists to manage the disorder. I plan on growing this channel by hosting interviews with peers, supporters, medical professionals, and politicians in order to grow the conversation about this disorder and to help those who struggle with it. My first interview is with my main supporter, my fiancé, my rock, Joli. What is amazing about Joli is that she wakes up with me every day and brings me joy and love that I could get nowhere else. She's pretty incredible, as you're about to find out. Joli, welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Indeed, indeed.
And I would also like to mention you're my main supporter, and even though we're going to be talking about bipolar disorder, it's just a component of our life. It's not what makes us. It's the love and support that we give each other.
Absolutely. So just tell the audience why you're actually agreeing to do this interview.
I am agreeing to do this because I want to support you and I want to raise awareness about bipolar disorder. It's a lonely place to live if you don't have help.
I agree. And how long have you known Michael?
Well, I've known Michael for 8 years.
And when did you learn about his bipolar disorder?
Well, fortunately, Michael discussed his bipolar disorder with me very early in our relationship.
How much did you know about bipolar disorder at that time?
Well, really at that time, I knew nothing. I've had no experience with it. I don't know anybody with the disorder, or should I say anyone who's expressed that they've had the disorder to me. So I really knew nothing about it.
Was this scary for you?
I guess I didn't know enough to be scared. It was intimidating. I know that the term is big and it has a lot of effect on people.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Have you seen him go through mania and or depression?
Yes, both.
And can you describe what this looked like for you?
So mania is what I think is, for me, the harder part, because it's not manageable for me on an individual basis. And I have to seek external help of hospitals or doctors. And extreme medication. Whereas depression, it's kind of a day-to-day approach that usually we do not seek external help.
So could you perhaps give an example of what Michael looked like in a manic state?
Well, it progresses slowly. It starts out small and gets bigger and bigger. What I do notice physically is his left eye becomes dilated, and sometimes will stare up at the ceiling while his right eye looks at me. And I can tell it's hard for him to focus because he commonly takes his glasses on and off to try to gain focus of what he's looking at. So that's the first physical thing that I notice. As far as mood, he's in a very confused state, a bit agitated, and mostly just confused. He can't complete a task.
How does that continue to grow out of control?
It continues by him not eating, not sleeping, grandiose thinking, thinking that things are bigger than they are, just really to an unrealistic expectation. And there's just really no telling what he might do. And I view it as he could be harmful to himself and others, especially if he tried driving or say climbing up on a ladder to fix something. I think he's just in a very dangerous state at that point.
What would make you think he was saying something grandiose as opposed to something just happy or what have you, in an example form?
Well, because I live with Michael every day, I know what he usually says on a typical basis. And when I say grandiose, it's something that's unrealistic, or trying to think of the right term. Not realistic, not obtainable. So maybe, for example, thinking he's a billionaire or married to a movie star, or knows famous people that maybe he hasn't had an encounter with. It's just grandiose, things that aren't realistic.
And what does depression look like for him?
It can be day to day, and really I just notice there's no highs, there's no lows, there's just kind of a solid melancholy state of and kind of slumped over, just no happiness or joy in his eyes.
And have you had to take him to the hospital for treatment?
Not depression, only mania.
And what was that like?
That's hard, because first of all, I had to find a hospital that deals with mania. So basically the hospital needed to have a psych ward. In Denver, I only know of one hospital, and
What hospital is that?
That was Porter Hospital in Denver. And fortunately, their emergency room has a separate entrance for bipolar disorder, for mania, for psych. Basically, they have therapists there, and they have protocols to help someone in mania. Whereas other hospitals without that psych ward don't seem to have the same resources, so they don't know what to do.
Interesting. And was it difficult to get him to go?
Not really. It was just explaining. I just explained things to him about the seriousness of the situation, and that we just needed to go look for help.
Were you aware of the 3-day hold they were about to place?
Yeah, I was aware that he was probably going to be held, because I could tell the case was extremely serious.
And did he object to that?
No, I don't think he knew that he was going to be held. He knew he was going to the hospital, but I don't think he thought the outcome through.
And how long did he have to stay in the hospital?
Well, he stayed in the emergency room for a few days, and then was transferred to long-term psychiatric care, where he was.
And what's the difference between those two?
Being contained. So emergency is similar to the 72-hour hold, where he would be just released after a few days, whereas the long-term hold had to do with that they didn't think that he could function effectively in society and could be a danger to himself and other people. So it required that he be detained for a longer, more extended period, where he could be monitored on an hour-by-hour basis.
And if I can add just the personal flavor to that, the emergency room is really just a holding room where they can assess what's going on, and you wait there until doctors can come and do the assessment and see if it's necessary to escalate to a formal stay at the hospital. The hospital turns into a room, much like a hospital room, generally with a roommate, and allows you to have your meals and everything taken care of there. So you're fully supported by the hospital staff once you're admitted. Do you notice things that trigger episodes for him?
There do seem to be triggers. Not getting enough nutrition, not sleeping enough, and situations that are fast-paced. Or another example is the loss of Michael's dad caused a very large mania episode.
So this is something that happens more than once.
Yes.
Would you say that there's anything that one might not want to say to somebody with bipolar disorder?
Trying to stay positive and realistic and grounded are great approaches. I don't know if I have a list of things not to say. I think it's probably specific case by case.
Are there things that you tend to stay away from when his mind is racing?
Yes, I try to keep things extremely simple and grounded. I try to keep everything realistic, and I try not to confuse the situation any more than it already is. So creating an environment where Michael has to make a decision is one of the more poor things I can do, because he seems to not have the ability to make a decision or pick from choices. It kind of just stops him, confuses him, and makes it a little more difficult.
You've been through several episodes, and you've learned quite a few things, it sounds like. Are there any signs that you can point out that his mood is changing abnormally?
Yes, he becomes excitable, and one of the biggest triggers that I found is if I ask him if he's okay and he says he's better than okay, then I know that he's starting to race, and things are becoming very fast paced for him. A lot of movement, just not normal behavior. You know, I have a very strong gauge of what I think normal behavior is, and when I see things outside of that, I start raising a suspicion.
What tools do you have to work with these changes in mood?
So that's where I think the real struggle is. There aren't a lot of tools, and the tools that the doctors have given us is medication. And take this medication to go up, take this medication to go down, take this medication to maintain. And that's hard from my perspective because I don't know where he is. I can only speculate. So I try not to get involved in the medication part of this. What I would like to see is more support out there in the world, maybe a support system for people who are living with bipolar and family members, maybe someone I can call. Because if there's a problem while I'm on vacation or on the weekends, there's no help. I mean, there's the NAMI hotline, but real accessible information of people with knowledge, it's just hard to find in a desperate situation. So I think building a support system would be a really good tool. And that's what I'm hoping we can gain with this interview and this channel.
What resources have been the best for you to learn about this disorder and help you grow overall?
For me, I've read a lot of articles, just Googling and trying to find credible sources and articles has been big. And talking with Michael's dad was a huge help. He has lived with both of his sons having bipolar disorder, and I think he had been through every situation imaginable, and he really helped me understand the illness. One of the largest things he taught me, or should I say the first and foremost, is language. There's a certain language you have to speak when somebody's having a manic episode. It's the language you speak to the person. It's a different language that you speak to the doctors, another language that you speak to employers when informing them that there's a problem. It's all about terminology and language and knowing the right things to say. And that's probably one of the more difficult components of this illness.
Could you give the audience an example of what's the right thing to say and perhaps what's the right thing to not say, maybe to a doctor, to an employer? I mean, these are really delicate situations, And as a caregiver, you're put in this position frequently, I would imagine.
Not super frequently, but it does happen on occasion. And examples of people I've had to talk to are professors, employers, doctors, and it's informing that there's a situation without giving too much detail, because there's a lot of protocols for employment and health, and implementing that into the situation. So if the wrong words are given to an employer, it might start the wrong protocol. So what I learned is the less information, the better. Just informing that there's an illness and not giving any more details than that has been the best protocol for that. And then let the doctors and professionals handle the details later.
Right, because the doctors have the language to speak specifically about the illness in a way that the insurance companies can understand.
Yes,
it becomes out of your hand.
That's correct.
What resources would you like to see become more readily available to you and the rest of this community?
Well, I know they have things such as groups for addiction. I would like to see something like that with bipolar disorder. I would like to see more groups readily available for people to access, and maybe the same type of system of a sponsor, and just building a network of friends and people you can work with and talk to, so you don't feel so alone, or so I don't feel so alone. Sometimes I just feel like if I just had somebody to talk to, it would make it easier. And the problem I have is a lot of people don't understand this illness. And I have spent 8 years hiding it from our friends, hiding it from my family. And I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to live in this world of secret anymore. I want to own that we deal with this illness and get the help and support we need. Because this is lonely. I don't want to live in this space anymore.
Joli, thank you so much for sharing today.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate it. If you guys like the content here, please click the link below for commenting, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Michael.